start off once again. All right, so I'll tell you what, let's just begin at the definition of the gut, okay? I was trying to define the gut before I move on. The gut is a place where the digestion, absorption, and metabolization of food takes place. It's actually a long tube, and it consists of several organs. Now, the first point of entry of food is the mouth. So really, technically, the gut starts over there and ends at the colon or the rectum, where the elimination of waste is happening, okay? So that entire thing is called a gut. Now, I already told you when I was starting that gut health is very important and has far-reaching impact on our health. Besides what we know of, like we know that it takes care of our digestion of food, absorption of food, but beyond that, our gut is responsible for a lot of things. So before we begin the session, I'd like to introduce to you the different ways in which our gut affects our health, because I think once you know that, you'll be able to appreciate your gut better and take better care of it. All right, so the first thing that, Ashwini, maybe we can just show the first slide number 2 briefly. All right, so why is the gut so important? You see a lot of things over there. I'm going to be briefly touching upon all these different points and giving you an idea about how these different aspects are affected by our gut health, okay? So number 1 is digestion of food. Ashwin, if you want, you can remove the slide. Okay, digestion of food. So digestion of food, as I said, happens first in the mouth. What happens in the mouth is there is mechanical breakdown of food. When we chew our food with our teeth, that action coupled with our saliva breaks down our food, okay, into smaller pieces. So that is why chewing our food well is very, very important. We know about it. It's common sense. But as they say, common sense is not that common. And most of us have forgotten what sitting down and enjoying a meal and chewing our food really should be like. And that is why there is a lot of focus now on terms like mindful eating. Because it's important that we give our food the respect that it deserves. And for that, you need to be present with the food, present in the moment when you are eating. Your food deserves that respect. So we must chew our food so that larger pieces of food are not able to enter our stomach, because if that happens, it causes problems like bloating and indigestion and acidity, etc. So breaking our food down in the mouth by chewing well is step number 1 that we need to look at. Once that happens, the food enters the stomach. In the stomach, there's further breakdown of food going on, further digestion that is happening. And that is happening not mechanically, but chemically with the help of stomach acids and digestive enzymes. I'm sure you've heard of stomach acids and digestive enzymes, okay? What they do is that they further break down our food into smaller pieces. And it further breaks down our food into smaller pieces before it enters the small intestine. Now, many of the people, they have a problem with digestive enzymes and with stomach acids, and that's why we find issues like bloating, acidity, acid reflux, heartburn, etc. very common these days. And we often think that it's because of low stomach acid. Actually, the reason is just the opposite. We think it's high stomach acid, but actually the reason is just the opposite. It's because we have low stomach acids. And that is why we are seeing those kind of symptoms. I'll be telling you later on in the presentation what we can do about increasing our stomach acids in quantity in our stomach. The digestive enzymes look after breakdown of fats and proteins. So if your digestive enzymes are not working to the best of their ability, then your fats and proteins are not broken down adequately. Now, moving on to the next function, which is absorption of nutrients. You almost have heard the term, you are what you eat, right? I mean, I'm unable to really talk to you people. I know you're busy, probably taking notes or whatever, But I'm sure you have all heard of the term, you are what you eat, which is very true. There's nothing, I'm not denying that. But I would like to take it a step further and say, you are what you absorb. Okay? Because you may be eating the best kind of food, eating the right kind of diet, but if you're not able to absorb the goodness from that food, then it's of no use. So, good absorption happens only when the health of your gut is good. And absorption is happening in the small intestine. So, the small intestine has a lining. At this point, I'd like to introduce you to the concept of a leaky gut. I know it doesn't really fit in here, but I'll be using that concept a lot as we move along in the presentation. So I thought, let me give you a brief idea as to what a leaky gut is. I'm not sure if...
Before that, everyone take note, the absorption mainly happens in the small intestine. This is a very important point for everyone, all of us to know. So that this is very, very important that absorption and digestion happens in the small intestine. Correct, Nidhi?
Yes. So digestion happens, Ashwini, in the starts in the mouth level.
Starts in the mouth.
Yeah. And moves on to the stomach.
Right.
When by the time the food reaches the small intestine, there is a small amount of digestion happening there also. Mm-hmm. But the basic purpose of the small intestine is to absorb the nutrients. That's the basic function of the small intestine.
Right. Okay.
So then I was talking to you about the leaky gut.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with this, new issue that has come. I remember when we were studying, it was not there in our textbooks, but science is constantly evolving. And now we have a situation called the leaky gut, which is actually responsible for a number of diseases today. So what is the leaky gut? So the small intestine has a permeable layer around it, like a skin around it, okay? That helps to separate the inside of your digestive tract from the outside of your body. So it keeps everything protected, it keeps your body protected. And it is made up of a layer of cells. These cells are actually have very tight junctions, okay? They're very closely packed to each other. And the gaps between these cells are just tiny enough to let the nutrients pass through. For example, your protein breaks down into amino acids. The amino acids can pass through these junctions. The protein cannot pass through, okay? So it's as small as that. Now, what happens is, due to several factors, it could be prescription medicines, in particular, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, antibiotics, processed foods, refined foods, genetically modified foods, bad bacteria, stress, number of factors due to which these tight junctions actually become larger. So can you see, like they become bigger? So what happens is it forms leaks or holes. And through these leaks or holes, bigger particles of undigested food, toxins, and bad bacteria can pass into our system. Is everyone good so far? Yeah, if you're not, please feel free to put in a question and Ashwini can stop and ask me. So what happens is all these unwanted foreign objects enter our body. And when that happens, there's a cascade of immune response. And when the body has an immune response, what happens is there's inflammation, okay? So this kind of inflammation, if it happens in a constant rate and we are in a state of chronic inflammation, then we are inviting a lot of diseases. In fact, every disease today, right down from diabetes, heart diseases, obesity, autoimmune diseases, cancer, everything has been rooted in inflammation. So inflammation is something which is very dangerous. It's caused by a leaky gut. And that's why to maintain the integrity of our gut lining is very important. Okay, this was just to tell you what a leaky gut is. I'm going to go back to the functions of the gut. So absorption of nutrients, you are what you absorb. You have to have a well-functioning gut so that you can absorb all the goodness from the food. Elimination of waste, that's point number 3. We all know detoxification is very important, right? We need to get rid of toxins from our body. And I know people are going in for fancy detoxes and everything else, which is fine because the number of chemicals and toxins that we are exposed to in today's world is way too large. We have several organs in our body that are helping us detox, liver being one of the most important one, but the colon or the large intestine is again a very important organ of detoxification. Okay, that's where the elimination of waste is happening. So our body has absorbed everything so far in the small intestine. Then now the food is entering the large intestine, and the main purpose of the large intestine is to eliminate the waste. So this includes undigested food, it includes bad bacteria, it includes excessive hormones. It's very important that our body eliminates all this from it, because otherwise we are headed for a lot of issues. So if any of you is facing an issue of constipation, it's not something which is normal. It's not something which you should be pushing under the carpet. It is definitely something that you should be addressing, because that's the way our body is trying to get rid of unwanted matter. So elimination of waste is point number 3. Now, all this is dealing with our digestion, absorption, and excretion. Let's move on to the next important function of the gut, which is controlling our mood and our brain function. I don't know if this is coming as a surprise to you, but the gut and the brain are totally connected. They are connected by something called the vagus nerve. Okay? To put it very simply, in your daily life, I don't know if you've experienced this. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling excited, what happens? Do you feel any body reactions? Some people feel like butterflies in the stomach. Some people feel knots in the stomach. Some people want to rush to the bathroom. So that just goes to show that our gut and our brain are completely connected to each other. Okay? And besides this, we all know that there are certain hormones which are important to keep us in a happy mood. Okay, so for wellness and well-being, we need these feel-good hormones. If they are out of place, we are heading in for issues like anxiety and depression, etc. Now, these neurotransmitters are primarily produced in the gut. So if you've heard of serotonin, 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut. Dopamine, also 50% of that is produced in the gut. So if there's anything wrong with our gut, it's going to affect our mood and our brain function, and vice versa. If something is wrong with our brain, it affects our gut. These two are totally connected with each other. In fact, our gut today is also called the second brain. The reason being that it has a lot of nerve endings. There's something called the enteric nervous system. To put it very simply, you must have all heard of the concept gut instinct. Have you heard of gut instinct? What does that mean? Actually, our gut can think. In fact, there's a very popular saying which I love. It says that your brain can be fooled, your heart can lie, but your gut is always right. Whenever I have to make any important decision, honestly, I check in with my gut. If it feels right to you from inside, then it is right. Which again goes to show that your gut has thinking capacity. It has a brain. It's so important to us. So now I hope you can make the connection between your gut and the brain. This is all very, very recent research that is going on. In fact, there's more research happening in this field, and maybe next year, if we're talking about the same topic, we'll have much more to share with you. Coming to the immune system, I know, as Ashwini very rightly said, COVID is here to stay. It's just not going away. It becomes better, it comes back, but what we all need to be aware is that we need to have a good immune system so that we can protect ourselves against it. Now, again, our immune system, you'll be surprised to know, or maybe you do know, 80% of your immune system is in your gut. It's in the walls of your gut. So if you want a good immunity, you again need to fix your gut health. So gut health is that important, guys. You really, really need to focus in to your gut health if you want your immune system to function to the best of its capacity. Hormone balance. Okay, all women are constantly having issues with their hormones. As women, we know how important hormones are to our well-being. Now, as I mentioned before also, our feel-good hormones, we feel good because there are certain hormones that are secreted in our body. And as I told you before, hormones or neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine are produced in our gut. Okay, so how we feel is very dependent on our gut. Besides this, there are hormones called leptin and ghrelin. These two hormones take care of our appetite. They regulate our appetite. Okay, so these are also produced in the gut. There are several other hormones which are metabolized in the gut. For example, estrogen. Estrogen is a female sex hormone, okay? And whenever we have estrogen dominance, it can lead to a lot of issues, including breast cancer. Now, what happens in the gut is all the excess hormones. If you remember, I told you some time back, when we detox, we get rid of excessive hormones. So any excess estrogen is gotten rid of by the gut. So the gut is the one that is maintaining the balance of our estrogen so that it doesn't go too high or too low. Because to maintain a hormonal balance is really what is important to keep us in good health. Besides estrogen, even the thyroid hormones or hormones like melatonin is the hormone which enables us to fall asleep. All these are regulated by our gut. All right. Now, you know what, guys? Each of these topics actually is a topic on its own. I'm just trying to give you a basic idea so that I can move on and go deep into further issues with the gut. That's as far as hormone balance is concerned. Next is skin health. When it comes to skin health, what do most of us do? We are generally looking for the best cream or the new serum or some lotion or a laser treatment or a fancy facial, which is all good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. We need to take care of our skin. But as they say, beauty is not skin deep. Okay? It's an inside job. And which means that 90% of the health of your skin lies in the gut. Trust me when I'm saying this, because I'm telling you out of experience. No matter what you put on your skin, it's not going to work if your gut health is not good. Reason being, some is very obvious, some is not, but I'll briefly tell you. So our skin is an organ, okay? It's the biggest organ of our body, and every organ needs nutrients for it to function properly. Now, if your nutrients are being absorbed properly, then only your skin is going to look good. So again, we come to the fact that if you have a healthy gut, you'll have good absorption, you'll have a good skin. If you don't have a good absorption, you're not going to have a good skin. That's number one. Number two, if you have a situation like the leaky gut, when undigested food particles and toxins are entering your body and your blood circulation, what the body does is, in order to protect itself, the easiest way for our body to get rid of toxins is through our skin, because it's trying to protect every other organ. So the easiest thing it can do is to get rid of the toxins through our skin. And because of that, we see issues like rashes, bumpy skin, acne, eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, dry skin, dull skin. All these issues are coming because of an unhealthy gut. So no matter, I hate to break it to you, but no matter what you put on the outside, your skin is not going to look good until and unless you take care of it from the inside. All right. I'm not seeing any response, so I'm not sure if you guys are okay with things so far.
No,
is everyone fine?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions which have come on the chat box, but we will just take it up in the end.
We'll have time for questions. Okay, the last one, and not the least, I know that is something really critical: weight regulation. Okay, so if you're unable to lose weight, no matter how much you exercise, no matter how restricted your diet is, and how calorie deficient your diet is, which again is not the right way to go. But if your gut bacteria are not in the right balance, you're not going to be able to lose weight. Okay, so I want you to hear that again. Your weight regulation depends on your gut. Why? Number one, I told you before that the appetite controlling hormones, which are ghrelin and leptin, are both produced in the gut. If the gut is not healthy, these hormones will not be produced properly, and that can lead to us putting on weight. Okay, so that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that when we have an imbalance of bacteria, so we're going to talk about bacteria later, but I have to bring it in here now. Our body or our gut has good and bad bacteria. Okay, so the correct ratio of good and bad bacteria is 85% good and 15% bad bacteria. When this ratio goes wrong, which means you have more of bad bacteria than the good bacteria, then we are running into issues because your bad bacteria crave the processed and fast foods. Okay, so that's where your cravings are coming from. Whereas the good bacteria, they are the ones that are satisfied with good, wholesome, organic food.
This
so
is a very important point. It's extremely important. You can see the craving is coming from this bacteria which is there in our gut. So this is very, very important for us to know. So when you're getting a craving to eat more and more processed food, more and more food, which you already know is not great, then there's something wrong. So the body is talking to you, the gut is talking to you. So this is an extremely important point. So please note this point. Yeah.
I love what you said, Ashwini. Your gut talks to you. Trust me, your body talks to you. It gives you signals. It's just that you ignore it. Yeah. For example, if you're, I know this is going off topic, but this is such an interesting thing that you brought up. If you are feeling bloated, right, after a meal, you'll say, oh, fine, I had this and it's going to make me feel bloated. And I'll feel okay after a while. So we've normalized that. We can't normalize it. If you're feeling bloated after eating something, you need to check in with your gut, because most of the times people start avoiding things. Okay, this is causing me bloating, I'm not going to have it. This is also causing me bloating, I'm not going to have it. The actual problem is you need to fix your gut, because more often, 90% of the time, if your gut is fixed, you'll be able to have that particular food item and you'll be fine with it.
Totally, absolutely. You don't need to avoid things. You don't need to stop eating things, but focus on how can you improve your gut than avoiding everything. That's not the solution. And I think she said very nice point where you just keep ignoring कि अच्छा थोड़ी देर के बाद ठीक हो जाएगा, but थोड़ी देर के बाद, months, years, and few more years, it'll hit you hard. So this is something which we need to be aware of.
Absolutely. That is why I'm not a huge fan of food allergy tests also, Ashwini, because they will tell you don't eat this, don't eat it, those food items may not be the problem. The problem is that your gut is not able to deal with it.
Yeah.
So if you can fix your gut, you'll be able to enjoy all those food items and feel good after having them. So number one thing is you need to ask yourself, how do I feel after I have a particular food? Okay, so keep checking in with your gut. Your body is constantly talking to you. Just don't ignore it. All right. That being said, let's stop this here. So I hope by now there's no doubt in the fact that your gut is important. Yes, guys, give me a thumbs up if you think so. All right. Slide number 3, please.
All right. Let me just go to that. There.
Okay, gut microbiome. Now, no topic and no discussion on gut health is complete till I talk to you about the gut microbiome. I don't know whether you've heard about the gut microbiome, but let me tell you what it is very briefly. The microbiome is consisting of the bacteria, viruses, fungi, and many other microorganisms, okay? Now, the gut microbiome is also gaining a lot of interest in today's world. Reason being that there are trillions of these bacteria in our body, okay? If you take a normal person, because these bacteria are in such large amounts, they weigh almost 1 to 2 kilos, which is almost the weight of our brain. Okay, so some scientists are even calling the microbiome another organ. Okay, we have so many bacteria in our body that we are actually 10 times more bacteria than human. Okay, we have 10 times more bacterial cells than human cells. And most of these bacteria, barring some which may be harmful, most of these bacteria are actually extremely useful for you. That is why when it comes to over cleanliness and over sanitization and sterilization, it's not good for you. Our body needs those bacteria. All right. So these bacteria, as I said, they have their own entity. Now, each of these bacteria has its own genes. They have their own genotypes. Okay. And these genotypes have an effect on our personality. It totally affects our health status and our personality. Again, a lot of research is going on in these areas of the genes that are present in these microbes and how they affect us as human beings. Okay, so that's what the gut microbiome is. Let's talk about what all it does in our body. It plays a huge role. Nothing in the body has been designed to be there if it doesn't have a role. That's the beauty of our body. God has designed everything which is there has a purpose. Okay, so what is the purpose of the microbiome? And it's surprising that for many years we had not even discovered what the microbiome was, but today we are very well aware of what it is. Number one thing is that it helps us to digest fiber. Our body does not have any enzyme to digest fiber. The digestion of fiber happens only in the large intestine by the gut bacteria. They are the ones that are able to break down the fiber. Okay, when they are breaking down the fiber, as a byproduct of that, there are these short chain fatty acids which are created called butyric acid. You don't need to go into the science of it, but the bacteria digest our fiber. When it's doing that, certain short chain fatty acids are created, which are extremely useful for our body. They are the ones that give us energy. They are the ones that protect our intestinal wall. So digestion of fiber is a very, very key role that these bacteria play in our health. Even absorption of minerals. Okay, we know that we need a lot of minerals: selenium, zinc, magnesium, manganese, calcium, etc. All that happens because of our gut microbiome. That is the one that is helping the absorption of minerals. It also helps in the synthesizing of essential vitamins. So how does this happen? Like when I told you, when the breakdown of fiber happens, when the breakdown of fiber happens, certain vitamins are produced as a byproduct of that. One of the key vitamins is vitamin B12 and certain other vitamins in the vitamin B complex system, plus vitamin K. So these vitamins are created when fiber is digested in a large intestine by the gut microbiome. Then it supports our detoxification process. As we all know, detoxification is very important. All the toxins that we are ingesting on a regular basis, and I know the number of toxins and chemicals is just getting larger and larger. All those things, the detoxification process is assisted by the gut microbiome. They are the ones that are helping to break down the chemicals and making sure that they get released outside the body. Okay, communicating with the immune system, extremely important. It is the gut microbiome that controls our immune system, and it controls how the immune system works and how it responds to infections, because the gut microbiome is really the in-between, the go-in-between our body and the immune system. It communicates.
It's like a postman. It's like
It
a
is.
postman. So
It is.
microbiome is a postman who's talking between our gut and our body and telling us, "Acha, ye karna hai kaam, ye karna hai kaam. You have to do all these things." And who carries this message to our body? It's the microbiome. Correct?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
basically the postman who is just taking the information to our body. And as you can see, the postman is so important because he is handling so many functions like absorption of
Absolutely.
minerals. I think minerals are very important to feel active. Fiber is very important to throw away the waste from our system. And I think what else was there? I think another very important point.
Vitamins and
Right?
the short
Vitamins,
chain.
synthesizing vitamins is required to feel the vitality, to feel energetic, right? And then we
Absolutely.
have communicating immune system. So it needs to tell, okay, you are okay, like the body is okay, you are able to fight the virus. So this gut microbiome is very important because it is constantly communicating with our very important functions, which keeps our body running, like which keeps our body active and running, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. In fact, the gut microbiome is something that we really cannot live without. It's that important. But what we need to keep in mind is to keep it in the right balance. Like I told you before, there's bad bacteria and there's good bacteria. If you keep it in the correct ratio, which is not an easy task because there are diet and lifestyle issues because of which this balance goes out of sync, and then we are in a state called dysbiosis. Okay, so if we want to maintain them in correct balance, then we have to work towards it. And it's very important that we do that because then only our body functions will be able to work to their maximum potential. All right, so over here, I'll finish the what is the gut and why is it important. And let's move on to what you're all waiting to hear. What can I do and how can I keep my gut in the best possible state? Okay. So what I have kind of figured out is the 5 R's of gut health. Okay. So I'm going to be going through each of them one by one. The first R of gut health is remove. Okay, so we need to remove certain inflammatory foods from our diet. These inflammatory foods are refined foods, processed foods, genetically modified foods, foods with pesticides, chemicals, trans fats, all these kind of foods, we have to minimize having them. Okay, and also we need to, as far as possible, keep in check on the amount of gluten, dairy, soy, etc., because all these foods come under the umbrella of inflammatory foods. If you go back to what I said about the leaky gut and how it causes inflammation, all these foods that we are talking about can potentially cause a leaky gut and can lead to inflammation in our body. Now, again, the beauty is each one of us is unique. So if something works for somebody, doesn't mean it has to work with you. And the reason why we are unique, one of the biggest reasons, is our microbiome is unique. There are no two people with the same microbiome. Just like no two people have the same fingerprint, no two people have the same voice. Similarly, no two people have the same microbiome. And that is why one diet works on somebody and that same diet doesn't work on the other person. So you cannot say that, oh, this diet is working for this person, let me also try doing it. It may work for you, it may not work for you. And the reason is we are all unique. We have our own microbiome with thousands of bacteria, which are very unique to us. There are no two people with the same microbiome. All right. So you remove all these processed and inflammatory foods. We also remove environmental toxins and chemicals. So be very mindful of the self-care products that you're using. Be very mindful of the cleaning products that you're using in the home. Be mindful of the air that you're breathing, the water that you're drinking. All that in today's world is full of toxins and chemicals. So start becoming aware of what you're doing and choose only products which are organic, which are clean, which are sustainable, because that is really the way to healthy living. You need to cut out all those items from your daily life as far as possible.
You must
Okay?
have heard this. You must have heard this in different places as well. But I would like to kind of highlight to you that by removing these foods, try and test it for some days. Remove these particular foods that Nidhi has very beautifully summarized. Remove these things for some time and see how you feel. Right, Nidhi? Don't you think? By
Absolutely.
removing
Absolutely.
this for some time, see how you're feeling. The reason why we are asking you to try removing these for some time and how you're feeling is because only when you feel good is when you'll realize the importance of it. Secondly, even if you slip back to the same habits, let me tell you, it may not be immediate impact, but the gradual impact. You must have heard your friends suffering from various ailments, what Nidhi summarized in terms of cancer, diabetes, and things like that. But if we do not become self aware, you never know when it may come to us. I mean, it's a very bitter truth. Very, it may sound very straight. I mean, but this is the bitter truth. So let's accept it.
Yeah, that's true. It really is. The world is getting full of toxins. It is the bitter truth. That's the way things are, and we just need to kind of work our way around it. We can't change the world, but we can change ourselves, and we can make decisions. We
And let me
always
tell
have a
you,
choice.
there's one more very expensive truth is sticking to organic food. It may look expensive truth, but trust me, in the long run, this is the most beneficial truth that you would have probably made, the best wise decision that you would have made. So this is
I know,
another.
Ashwini, as they say, if you think health is expensive, try illness.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. If you really think health is expensive, then try illness. That is
Yeah,
exactly, and
exactly.
it's not only the financial, it's not only the matter of finances. It's about the emotional stress and instability that is caused in the family among your loved and near ones. So be mindful of all these things. It may come across to you like ye to yahi bolte hain, but do you realize the outer impact? If we are not becoming aware of these little things that Nidhi has beautifully summarized, what happens if if we do not take it seriously, you know? So yeah, that's what I wanted to kind of put forward, saying that
Right.
there is a bitter truth and but you think it's expensive truth, but trust me, that is a wiser decision compared to the illness that you may otherwise invite. So
Right.
please go ahead.
Wonderful. Okay. The last thing that we need to remove, I know it's very, very difficult and it's easier said than done, is stress. Emotional stress is something which definitely affects our digestive health. What happens when we are stressed? You've heard of being in the rest and digest mode. Only when you are resting and non-stressed, your body is able to digest food properly. Otherwise, your digestive system shuts down and you're not able to digest your food. You will not be able to absorb nutrients. You will not be able to feel well. Okay, let's move on. Guys, I also have some recipes to share with you. I know time is flying, so I'm going to go to the next slide quickly. If we remove all that, what do we replace it with? Okay, we replace it with whole foods, organic foods, high fiber diet, including fruits, vegetables, leafy greens, legumes, pulses, beans, seeds, nuts, and millets. Okay, we have a wide variety of food which nature has given us. Another point that I'd like to make over here is if you're choosing pulses, legumes, millets, vegetables, always keep rotating them. Don't just stick to the same dal. Don't stick to the same millet. Keep rotating it, because why? Again, coming to a microbiome, we have thousands of bacteria, okay? And each one of them requires a very different kind of a diet. So more diverse your diet, more diverse your bacteria, and better your health. So that's point number one. Number two, prebiotics and resistant starch. You have all heard of probiotics. Some of you may have even heard of prebiotics. Prebiotics is actually fertilizer for the probiotics. So your good bacteria also need food to grow. They're living things. They also need food. Prebiotics are those food items which feed our bacteria. And one of the best prebiotics are onion, garlic, unripe bananas, leeks, amaranth. Then you have cooked and cooled potatoes and cooked and cooled rice, which is very high in resistant starch. So they are the ones that our bacteria break down, and it's very useful for our body. Number three, if you remember, I had told you earlier, pretty much early on in the presentation, that most of us have low stomach acid. Reason being, as we grow older, and also because of certain maybe chronic illnesses, or eating too much sugar, or eating too fast, or eating a lot of antacids or prescription medicines, our stomach acids become weaker and lower. Okay, and that's when problems like bloating and acidity come up. Now, if you want to bolster your stomach acids, certain foods that you could include are apple cider vinegar or lemon juice. Again, you have to experiment on your body what is working for you. 30 minutes before a meal, if you can take apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon or a teaspoon of lemon juice diluted in water, 30 minutes before, your stomach acids get activated and your digestion will feel very good. Try it and see, and try and see if that works for you. Otherwise, fermented food also encourage the growth of our acid. And also there are food items like ginger, which are known to boost our stomach acid production. All right, so that is what we are going to replace it with. Slide number 3, re-inoculate our gut. Okay, when we re-inoculate our gut with good bacteria or probiotics, we are ensuring that we are giving it the right kind of bacteria. Now, before I move on as to how we're going to do this, there's one thing that I'd like to mention to you right away. Probiotics should never be seen as a substitute to bad diet and lifestyle. Probiotics are an add-on to an already existing good diet and lifestyle. Let me repeat that. Probiotics are an add-on to good diet and lifestyle, not a substitute. Doesn't mean that you do whatever you want to do and I'm going to have this probiotic and some magic is going to happen. It's not going to happen. Okay, so along with a good diet, you can add probiotic supplements, you can add probiotic food. Both of these are immensely beneficial. Let's briefly talk about the supplements first. Supplements are available as pills and they have a long shelf life. What you need to look at is the strength of the supplement. So it should, for maintenance dose, if you have good health, just for maintenance dose, anything from 2 to 5 billion to about 10 billion colony forming units is more than enough for you. Okay, and you can choose whatever good brand that you want. If you are having antibiotics for a long period of time, you can even go up to 30 billion or 50 billion. Make sure when you read the label, there are at least 30 to 40 different strains of bacteria. I already told you that there are thousands of strains of bacteria in our body. So make sure that your probiotic bottle is giving you 30 to 40 different kind of strains. Now, one thing that I need to point out is that these drugs or these pills have been made as standardized pills, okay? And your microbiome is very unique to you. So take your probiotic pills, but with a pinch of salt, okay? What you can do is you can keep rotating your probiotic capsules. You can buy a certain brand, then buy another brand. There are 2 bacteria which you should look out for in each of your formulations. That is Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium. These 2 strains should definitely be present. And besides that, whatever else is present is great too.
Sorry to interrupt, Nidhi, sorry to interrupt, but I mean, how safe are these supplements? Because I honestly believe that, like you rightly pointed out, that each individual's microbiome, the gut microbiome, is unique to an individual, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And these probiotic capsules and the supplements that you're recommending, these may be a host of microbiomes which may be which they think is generally applicable to everyone. And secondly, also the fact that they are covered with, like, any pill for that matter is made with a cover, with a kind of a surface, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
do you really think it is safe? I mean, don't you think there are a lot of things which we can do at home that you've already kind of highlighted here, key fermented vegetables and pickles and cultured dairy. So by increasing our homemade bacteria improving food, by doing that and not really resorting to supplements, do you think that may be a solution than going for a supplement?
I 100% agree with you. 100%
Right?
agree with you.
For me, my only
Keep your
concern
supplements as a sorry.
No,
Yeah.
for me, main concern is anything which is coming out of the medical industry. As much as they may have packed the probiotics and the prebiotics in that particular small pill, even the small pill is chemicalized. It is manufactured in a factory again, right?
100%.
And it will come, and like you said, generally allopathy mein kya hota hai? They try to treat the symptom which may affect another system altogether, right?
Absolutely.
Similarly,
Absolutely.
as much as you're trying to get one particular good bacteria through the supplement, another one may become excess.
Absolutely.
So right, you're right in saying that take it with a pinch of salt, but if you ask me, I would say don't take it at all. So I mean,
yeah.
You
know what? I mean, for most people, I don't think they have any unwanted symptoms. But again, listen into your body, listen into yourself. And if you feel that some probiotics supplements are not agreeing with you, I would say stop them. They're really not a magic pill. But if sometimes you're traveling and that's the most convenient thing that you can have, sure, you can go in for a good brand and
Okay.
take your probiotics pills. But if
Okay.
you're at home, as Ashwini rightly said, making probiotic food at home is the best way of looking after your gut bacteria. And most of these recipes are extremely simple. Today I'm going to be showing you 3 different recipes, and trust me, there's no cooking involved in any of them, but the whole process of putting it together will not take you more than 5 to 7 minutes each. And just having a stock of that in the fridge and just taking a little bit, because in the case of probiotics, a little goes a long way. You don't have to have lots. So it's like pickle size, or like you have your pickles and a jar, just a small quantity is more than enough. Fermented foods have been being popular in our traditions for the longest time. In fact, somewhere down the line we forgot about it, like we forgot about many other things also. Reason being, we were running for convenience foods, processed foods, etc., that we forgot our traditions. Earlier times, fermentation of vegetables was done because it was a way of preserving food. They did not have refrigerators like what we have today. So they had no other choice but to preserve food. But what was happening because of that, as a byproduct of that, fermentation causes the production of good bacteria, and it's very good for your gut. Okay. Now, if you look the world over, there are lots of examples of fermented food. Sauerkraut is from Germany, then kimchi is from Korea, miso and tempeh is from Japan. Pickled vegetables is culturally very popular in our country and even in the Middle East. Then you have sourdough breads, you have cultured vinegar, you have cultured dairy like homemade yogurts or kefir, etc. All these
We have
are
idli and dosas, which are the
absolutely,
fermented
absolutely. Yeah,
batters.
Indians have lots, India. And so all these are probiotic food. At this point, I'd also like to introduce to you something called millet umbel. Okay. It's something new which I'm trying to experiment with. And as I said before too, always make sure you have a diversity of anything, whatever you're having. So even when it comes to probiotic, make it as diverse as possible. Don't get stuck with one thing. Have something, then switch it with something else. So we have a variety of millets, okay? And as Ashwini has like the best source of these amazing millets in her store, you can use different kinds of millets to make this gruel, okay? It's basically like a stew. You are supposed to soak the millets for about 7 to 8 hours. Then you will cook it on a slow flame for about 45 minutes, and then you will ferment it, typically in a clay pot. Ashwini, am I right?
Yeah, typically in a clay pot, but even if you don't have, it's fine. Don't worry.
Okay. So even, yeah, no excuse. If you don't have a clay pot, you can still go ahead with it. Then your umbel is ready. This umbel can be had in a variety of ways. It can be had as a thinned down version like a soup, and you can spice it whichever way you want to. You can have it with any kind of dry leafy green vegetable. You can have it with some pickle. You can have it with a dal. So there are like so many different ways in which you can have a millet umbel. It's a very, very interesting food item, which I really want to introduce in my diet. But the whole idea is to tell you that
No,
there is a
it's
lot of
only
variety.
because it is forgotten, Nidhi. I mean, definitely, it's nobody's fault. It's just happened so that, like there are so many other regional fermented foods which we very well know of because it's been spoken of. It's just that
True.
the Indian food has not been much spoken of. I'm so glad you've included this in your slide here, so because it's like you're bringing back the origin from where we come from, and that's what we always stand for. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I think kimchi or tempeh and sourdough, all these things which have come from different regions where people are following. These are the regular things which we used to follow. And not only millet, even the rice used to be made like that. So millet is something because it's very rich compared to a rice. Millet is very well spoken of these days, but even the rice ganji used to be very, very popular in
Oh,
our,
absolutely.
you know. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good point. Thank you so much for talking about it.
No, it's my pleasure. And honestly, why are we waiting for the West to make it popular? Have you seen what's happened to turmeric? Something that we've been using
Hashtag
all our
turmeric
life, or
latte.
ghee for that example. It's become so glamorous. It's my turmeric latte or my golden latte or whatever else, and being sold as, the next best thing to health, like a superfood today, even in, like popular coffee shops.
Yeah,
That's something which we've grown up with.
yeah,
So I think we need to realize that we have a wealth of food in our country.
yeah,
And there is another aspect. As Indians, our genes are more used to our own kind of food. It's the food
absolutely,
we have grown up with. Okay.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
we have a soul connection with that food, which we don't have with the sauerkraut. So
Mhm.
let's not try and get fancy. Let's stick to
Mhm.
our roots. We have a wealth of traditional food, along with, I think India is such a rich country anyways. So let's use our own foods. For that very reason today, Ashwini, the 3 recipes that I have decided to share are all going to be used in our Indian kitchen. They're not fancy sauerkrauts and kimchi and everything else. They are simple pickles that we can make with simple ingredients in our house. All right, the next R, let's quickly go to repair. Now, if your gut wall has been compromised, which it will, because our diet and lifestyle, stressful situations, some toxins entering, bacteria entering, there, anything that is used will have some sort of a wear and tear. So we need to keep it in top form. There are many food items you can use to repair your gut. I have mentioned a few over here, and this is in no particular order. So it doesn't mean if collagen is number one, it's the most important one, but let's begin with collagen. I know it's getting very popular in today's world again because people think it's the way to look young and beautiful, which it is, because it's the protein which keeps our skin looking plump. But again, collagen is the main component of our gut wall. Okay, so we need to have collagen to have a good gut lining, and you already know how important that is for us. Bone broth is something which is very rich in collagen. I'm a huge fan of bone broth. I think it is one of the most important foods when it comes to gut health. But if that's not something which is, suitable for you, or something that you would like to have, then you can always go in for supplements. That's totally fine too. You have collagen powders, you have collagen peptides. Those are easy to use, and they mostly have no flavor or taste. So we can easily add them onto your diet. Omega-3 fatty acids reduce inflammation. Anyway, for women, omega-3 fatty acids are extremely good. So
Flax meal,
including the,
flax meal
yes,
is a rich source of omega-3, right?
yes, flax meal and walnuts are a very rich source of omega-3. So make sure you have plenty of that in your diet. I cannot talk about gut health and not mention ghee. Okay, so ghee is a superfood when it comes to gut health.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because, and it's recognized by Ayurveda, it's not really coming from me, it's something which is known to us for thousands of years. It's again because ghee is very rich in something called butyric acid, which helps to maintain a very healthy gut lining. It helps to repair our lining, it helps to soothe our lining, it helps in making our lining work to the best of its capacity. Okay, so ghee is a superfood. Coconut oil is also again amazing. And guys, remember, in our country, ghee and coconut oil have been used in South India or North India, or different parts of India for the last thousands of years, and people have seen the benefits. So it's tried and tested. So there's no need to feel doubtful about any of these two products. Coconut oil has a lot of antimicrobial, antifungal, antibacterial properties because it's got something called lauric acid. So it's amazing for our gut health. It again soothes our gut, and it gives us instant energy also, so it stops our craving. Minerals like zinc and magnesium are also very critical, along with selenium, etc. There are many other food items, as I said, like turmeric and ginger, which are again very good for your gut because they reduce inflammation, right? Now, if you notice, it's the same food items again and again. They affect your immunity, they affect your gut health, they affect everything. So, because nothing in our body is working in isolation, it's all connected. And the gut is really the source or the center of our good health. Last but not the least, are in my gut health, good health for in the gut is rebalance. Rebalance your life. There's a lot of stress around. Coronavirus has added even more stress to our already stressful life. Most of us are living away from families, particularly in Dubai. It's bound to cause a lot of anxiety and stress. So that's something we need to manage. We can't wish it away. We need to just manage ourselves, making calm lifestyle changes, scheduling time to unwind, relax, eat mindfully, use breathing, use meditation, use yoga, use nature, use journaling, use whatever you have, connecting with friends, family. Rebalance your life so that you are in rest and digest state rather than in a fight or flight mode. Because when,
yeah,
sorry,
please
tell
go
me.
ahead. Yeah.
When you are in a fight or flight mode, what happens is your digestion will shut down because your body is trying to protect itself. So the first thing it does is it shuts down your digestive system, okay? Because your heart needs to work, your brain needs to work. What it can shut is the digestion. So keep yourself as far as possible. Take control of it. Try out whatever works for you. Make sure when you're eating, give respect to the food you're eating and connect with your food. Make that connection, put away all distraction, and keep yourself relaxed. So that brings us pretty much to the end of today's discussion. I know there's been a lot of information thrown at you. I hope you all enjoyed it. But before we end, I've been talking to you about three, simple recipes that I would like to share with
Before
you.
you start that, like she beautifully summarized, relax. I just want to give you one technique. Please remind yourself to breathe every hour, to breathe deep. Every hour, just pause and breathe deep. Like take a big inhalation and give out a big exhalation every single hour. You can put a reminder on your phone if required. So please do that. A minute of deep breathing every single hour can make a huge difference to your gut. Right, Nidhi?
Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. Because our gut and brain, everything is connected. So calm yourself down.
Yeah.
Breathe deeply. Don't breathe shallow from your chest. Breathe from your gut. Okay. Now,
Yeah. Please
coming to
share
the
the recipes now. Yeah.
yes, I'm sharing the recipes now. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to be making them, guys. The recipes are so simple. I'm going to be sharing the exact quantities and everything with you in via your
The group.
email
Yeah.
or something. So the first thing that I want to show you is such a simple recipe and so effective. This is a raw mango pickle. Okay, let me just show it to you. It takes literally 5 minutes to make. What you need to do is take raw mangoes. I know that for some time back they were in season, but very strangely, and I don't have an answer for that. But in Dubai, we have raw mangoes all through the year. I don't know from where they're coming. But anyway, I'm glad that they're there. So what I've done is, and you can cut it whichever way you want to, I have cut them into wedges like this. Because I just enjoy this, the wedges. So you need raw mangoes. You need coconut vinegar. Okay, this is another amazing finding that I made, and I'm such a fan of that. Coconut vinegar itself is a probiotic food because it's made by fermentation of coconut sap. I'm not showing you this because I want you to buy this brand, and I'm not selling anything here, but I'm just showing you this is the coconut vinegar and pink Himalayan salt. These are the three things that you need to make this recipe. That's
In
it.
case we don't have the coconut vinegar, can we use normal
Apple
vinegar?
cider vinegar. Apple cider.
Okay, all right. So if you don't have coconut
You can
vinegar,
use apple cider vinegar. Absolutely. You may need to adjust the quantities a little bit, or you can mix apple cider with raw, white distilled vinegar.
yeah, okay.
That's also fine. What I have done additionally, because I love spicy food, is I've added these chilies and I've used jalapenos. Okay, small jalapenos, and they're very spicy at this time of the year. And these are all locally grown in the UAE. The mango is locally grown in the UAE. The jalapenos are locally grown in the UAE. Just cut it however you want to. I've cut them in long wedges, and so put salt and put your vinegar. Leave it out at room temperature for 1 or 2 days. Stick it in your fridge and enjoy a wedge of this mango with whatever meal that you're having. It's really nice. It's so convenient and something that will add a lot of taste to your everyday meals also. You can always adjust the quantity of salt. So if your mango is very sour, you may need to put more salt. Okay, so that goes, depending on your taste. The next recipe is this turmeric and ginger pickle. There's a lot of talk of turmeric going on. Turmeric is amazing, ginger is amazing. Both of them are really good for various things and especially for our gut health. Now, if you can see over here, can you all see?
Yeah.
I have cut the fresh turmeric and fresh ginger, peeled it, washed it, dried it, and cut it into juliennes. You can make even very small pieces. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. You can cut them into sticks. You can cut them into small pieces, whatever you want to. I've also added green chilies. It's up to you. You want to add it or you don't want to add it. These are normal green chilies. So you take this and then you give it a tempering of ground mustard seeds and fennel seeds in a very good quality oil. So I have used Ashwini's organic cold pressed sesame oil. You can use sesame oil or you can use groundnut oil. These are the two oils that go very well with this pickle. Okay, so put a tempering of mustard seeds, fennel seeds in gingerly oil or in groundnut oil. And then you add a lot of fresh lemon juice, a bit of hing, asafoetida, and that's it. Leave it again for 2 or 3 days outside at room temperature. You don't even need to put it in the sun. And then you can refrigerate it and have a tiny bit with your meals. You don't need too much of it. And don't try and make too much. Make a little bit, at a time. Something that will last you for about 10 to 15 days and then make fresh stock of it. Though in the refrigerator, nothing happens to it, but I'd rather that you make this consistently and make it fresh. Okay, so these are the two pickles. I'm going to be sending you the recipes. Please feel free to make your modifications to the original recipe depending on your spice level and depending on your, how sour you want it. The last thing is something which is very popular in North India. I know different parts of India have different fermented foods. And this is something which is I've grown up with it. I'm from the North. And this is something called kanji. Okay. It's a fermented drink traditionally made only in the winter because traditionally food was seasonal. And in the winter, we would get something called black carrots or purple carrots. And we would make kanji with the black carrots or purple carrots. But in Dubai, those are not easily available. Anyway, they're not available all through the year. So if you want a simple drink, you can take any regular carrot and add beetroot to it. So for every 2 carrots that you're adding, put 1 beetroot. And you get this amazing color, this ruby red color, just after 2 to 3 days of fermentation. So this needs to go in the sun, guys. And to put it in the sun, you need a glass jar or a ceramic jar. Don't put it in a steel container or any aluminum container or a clay pot. It has to be ceramic, or the jars in which traditionally achars and all were made, or in a glass jar with a lid, or you can cover it with a muslin cloth. Keep it in the sun after you have put your ground mustard seeds and red chili powder and salt. Every day when you take it out of the sun, just give it a stir and taste it so that you will know when your kanji is ready. It actually develops a very interesting, tangy, sour taste to it. So the process behind all this is something called lactofermentation. Your sugars and starches in all these vegetables are being broken down into lactic acid, and certain bacteria, good bacteria, also created along with that. So this is
sharing the recipes for all these things, and we'll also be mentioning as to when is the good time to have this and what is the frequency. We will be sharing these things with you.
Absolutely. So see, guys, I'm pouring this out, and I love actually eating the vegetable sticks with it because that's like a pickle. So you can eat the vegetable sticks and you can have the kanji. You don't need too much of it. So like the amount that I poured, this is more than enough. You don't need more. And typically try having it like mid-morning in between meals or just 30 minutes before a meal. It'll also help to stimulate your stomach acids. So don't have it with your meals, 30 minutes before a meal or as a mid-morning drink. Like when you're used to drinking something, substitute it with kanji sometimes. Try it out and see. And I hope you really like it. I will be giving out the recipes. And what I would request you guys is, please don't leave the group. Stay in the group and share your experiences. Put up your pictures. If you have any doubts, if things are not coming out properly, feel free to ask as many questions. I'm there to answer them. Ashwini is there. So don't be in a hurry to leave the group, please. Now, stay
please.
there, and I'd love to see how you're doing.
Absolutely. I think that is the most important point. Let's move on to the questions right now, because I think we've run out of time. So quickly, okay, we have a question here. What about excess excretion, frequent stools? Is the gut also related in conceiving? And chances of pregnancy. So there are 4 questions here.
Sorry. Can you say that
first,
again?
okay, first question is, what about excess excretion? So that's
not good. That's not good also.
All
so
right.
Constipation is not good and diarrhea is not good.
Frequent stools is the gut, and okay. So
what is a normal stool is once or twice a day. Twice a day is also fine. It should be well formed. It should be soft. It shouldn't be runny. It shouldn't be hard.
Yeah.
And if it's more than that, or if it is less than that, then you need to check in and fix it. And there are several ways of fixing it, but you need to make sure that you fix it.
And is it anyway related to chances of pregnancy? I suppose it's a different topic.
That's a completely different topic. As I said earlier, nothing is unrelated.
Yeah.
So definitely if you are having, an unhealthy diet and your gut is compromised and your hormones are all over the place, it is going to affect things like your ovarian health or your ability to conceive. So, I honestly feel before you do anything, check in with your gut and fix that, and then take it from there. Because if you are not in a correct health status as far as your gut is concerned, you are going to face issues. So I cannot say there's a direct correlation, but there definitely is a correlation.
Is it concerned with delayed periods? Of course, yes. Because
Absolutely. Gut health is 100% related to polycystic ovarian syndrome and delayed periods and heavy periods. And by the way, all the symptoms that come along with menopause, perimenopause. Touch wood, because you look after your gut, you don't find those symptoms happening.
Yeah.
And if you don't look after it, no matter what you do, no matter which hormone replacement therapies you take, you're not going to feel good. So yeah, it is connected for sure.
Albumin in urine, please help. Types of food to eat if you are autoimmune. I think this is a very specific question. Maybe you can just answer it in a general way. And if you need any further help, please do contact Nidhi. I'm sure she'll be able to help.
Yeah, you can contact me directly. That's not a problem. But autoimmune diseases are really on the rise right now. I think there are thousands of diseases that come under this umbrella. So I can't even name them. There are like so many of them. And they are definitely as a byproduct of leaky gut. And you can cure autoimmune diseases by changing your diet and lifestyle 100%. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will certainly happen if you focus in on your gut health. Autoimmune diseases are definitely lifestyle diseases.
Perfect. That's so good to know. What about lactose intolerance? It's thanks to the industry which has injected hormones into our cows that we have all become lactose intolerant, if I'm not wrong. Right?
Yes, I think a lot of trouble with dairy has happened. Growing up, we used to have cow's milk. It was pure. It was not injected with hormones, antibiotics, etc., and there was no malpractice happening in the dairy industry. There's so much malpractice happening everywhere. But having said that, lactose intolerance is actually a thing. There are people who don't have the enzyme lactase and they're not able to handle lactose. So they're not able to have that. And anyway, they say that, cow's milk and all is not really meant for human consumption.
Yeah.
So there's the jury's out on that, and there's so much controversy around it.
True.
And also dairy causes inflammation. So I would say it's better to just avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the same answer for our next question. Can we remove it for some time or forever, or should we remove dairy, gluten, and sugar forever? I mean,
No,
yeah,
yeah.
please go ahead.
No. Tell me what were you
Yeah,
saying?
I mean, remove dairy, gluten, and sugar forever. I mean, at least for 90% of the year, like 90% of the time, 90 to 95% of the time, yes.
Okay, my rule is actually, I'm a little better than that, Shini. I would say 80-20. If you live by the 80-20 rule in life, whereas 80% of the time you can follow the right things to do for your body, and 20% of the time you give in, because there's something called vitamin P, which is vitamin for pleasure. If you really enjoy something, you really enjoy, don't deprive your body of it. Have it, but don't make a habit of it. So if I really enjoy something, it gives me so much pleasure, I don't mind having it on and off. Unless and until I have celiac disease and I just can't have gluten. But most of us don't have celiac disease. That's just 0.5% of the population. The rest of us are just sensitive to gluten. So from time to time, if you have it, doesn't matter. Just follow the 80-20 rule and you'll be fine. So enjoy your naans and parathas at some point. That's fine. Again, guys, just like there are different kinds of rice, there are different kinds of wheat. There's not only one kind of wheat.
Correct.
Okay? Correct. We have the kapli flour atta, we have the sprouted atta, and once you have these, you will realize you may not bloat that much after you have.
Absolutely. Please do try these different flours that she's spoken about. That's very, very important. Next is, why cooled rice and potatoes? Is it okay to have white rice?
Oh, yes. It's absolutely. In fact, if you have a damaged gut, I would recommend you have white rice. Don't go in for brown rice if your gut is compromised. What happens when rice and potato are heated and cooled? It gives rise to something called resistant starch. When I say resistant starch, it means that our body is not able to digest it. It resists digestion by the body, but our bacteria are able to break it down. So it's food for our bacteria. And you know, as I told you earlier, if you were listening, if when your bacteria breaks down these starches, it produces a lot of good things for you, a lot of good vitamins and short chain fatty acids, which will ultimately benefit you. So go ahead and have your rice. Again, when I say rice, doesn't mean you have a mound of rice. But of course, you have to keep portion control, but there's nothing wrong with having rice at all. It's actually very healing for the gut.
Perfect. What about homemade yogurt? Can we have that? Is it good for our
Love it. Love it.
I think in the dairy category, I think this is the only permitted and most appreciated, the homemade yogurt. So I think definitely please go ahead and have it. Yeah.
Absolutely. But again, if it doesn't work for you, if it gives you, heartburn or gives you bloating, or then don't have it. But mostly it works for everyone.
Perfect. How do I stock millet umbil? How do I make millet umbil? I will be sharing a full-on document with you guys, which is going to have a YouTube video on how to make it. And I've also myself posted a recipe on my Instagram and on my highlights. So I will also send a link to that so that you can see how to make a millet umbil. Yeah. And what about chia seeds? Chia seeds is also good. It's one of the good.
Chia seeds. Okay. So there is, when we talk of fiber, there's something called soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. So chia seeds come under the soluble fiber. This is what gives bulk to your stools. It also helps you to get rid of excessive hormones. It also slows down the absorption of fats. So when you're having fats or sugars, for example, people say, what about fruit? Now, fruit has sugar, but fruit has fiber also. So that fiber slows down the absorption of the sugar. I hope that answers your question. Chia seeds, a soluble fiber, you must have it. It's a very good thing to have. It keeps you full.
Okay, how can we have turmeric milk without including dairy? Like she said, 80-20 rule should be applicable perhaps?
No, I actually make my turmeric milk with the nut milk. I use either cashew milk or coconut milk, or a mixture of, because coconut milk on its own gets very heavy. So I mix cashew milk and a bit of coconut milk, add a pinch of turmeric, add a pinch of salt or ginger powder, add a pinch of black pepper powder, Add a pinch of cinnamon, and if you want, you can add some manuka honey or any good quality honey, and have your turmeric latte. You don't have to have dairy.
Perfect.
You can. I have made it with non-dairy milks, and it comes out beautifully.
Do check out her Instagram. We'll also be sharing her Instagram handle. She's got very nice recipes out there, so you can check out this as well. And any vegan collagen brands, do you recommend any?
Okay, so there's Neocell Collagen,
Hmm.
which is available if you're in Dubai. It's available in supermarkets. I've also seen it in India. So Neocell Collagen is one of the brands. Look for type 1 and type 3 collagen. It'll be written on the right hand side. And the other one is Vital Proteins, collagen peptides. That's available on Amazon. Both of these are, you can use any of them.
Perfect.
But do try, if you do eat non-vegetarian food, I would say bone broth is such an amazing idea.
Vegetarian alternative to non-synthetic collagen.
Vegetarian alternative to no. Okay, now that's a tough one. That's a tough one. If you are not going to eat collagen, I have to look that up.
I think the Ambil, probably, yeah. Let's probably look at that as to what.
I will look at certain options and let you know.
Sure. Is flax meal the same as flaxseed? Flaxseed instantly ground, freshly ground makes flax meal.
Absolutely.
Please always have flax seeds instant, like grind them instantly and have them instantly, please. That's very, very, very important, right, Nidhi?
Absolutely. So don't grind. I mean, I don't grind them fresh every time. I know you do, Ashwini, but I kind of have a little, like a small jar, and I do it for about a week and keep and use my flax meal. So don't buy ready flax meal from shelves. Make your own.
All right. Sources of zinc and magnesium.
Sources of zinc and magnesium, pumpkin seeds, bananas, green leafy vegetables, collard greens, broccoli. All these are very good sources of zinc and magnesium. Several nuts and seeds also.
Can coconut milk be taken in smoothies or should it be consumed hot? Please answer this. You have heard the doorbell ringing, so I'll be back in a minute.
Coconut milk can be had in smoothies, definitely. If you go on my page, on Instagram, I do share some smoothie recipes time to time. I'm a huge smoothie fan. So you can use coconut milk in recipes for sure. And then you can also make warm curries like Thai curries, and also with coconut milk. You can use coconut milk straight from the cans. Just make sure you're buying a good organic brand, or you can make yours on your own. It's really easy to make. You just get fresh grated coconut and put it in the blender with some water, blend it, strain it, and your coconut milk is ready. But if you don't want to go through the bother of doing that, then buying any good organic coconut milk can is also good for you. Having said that, freshly made coconut really does taste amazing.
All right, perfect. Is apple cider vinegar good for acid reflux issues?
It is, but I would again try it for 2 or 3 days and see how it works for you. Because acid reflux is caused by low acid production in the stomach. And to combat the low stomach acid, we can take apple cider vinegar as that will boost your stomach acid. But in some people, it doesn't work. As I said, it's very individual. If it doesn't work, drop it, try lemon juice instead.
My mom suffers from severe acid reflux. Any tips to manage it?
Again, that is low stomach acid. She has to work on her gut health and improve things. And, it's a lot. Even when you eat mindfully, eat slowly, that also benefits your stomach acids.
Eating mindfully. Please note eating mindfully. Yeah. So can we cure irritable bowel syndrome with dietary changes? I guess yes.
Absolutely. It's an inflammatory condition. Irritable bowel syndrome is an inflammatory condition. IBS or IBD, both of them can be absolutely cured with diet and lifestyle changes. Diet and lifestyle both need to change because a lot of these diseases, especially in the gut, are caused because of stress. So you have to manage your stress levels, or you manage how you deal with it. and manage your dietary intake, and both of them combined will definitely give you the results.
Can toddlers also have the probiotic recipes mentioned? What perhaps you're going to give? Can the toddlers have it?
They may not enjoy it. They may
Yeah.
not enjoy it. These are not the kind of tastes. You know what happens when fermented food is made, the whole process. It gives your vegetables a very unique kind of texture and aroma and flavor, which I doubt if a young toddler is going to be able to like that. You can try it, but yeah, there's no harm in trying, but don't be surprised if they won't like it.
Perfect.
Also, again, you know what, at this point I have to say, over managing your toddlers what should I say, environment, and over cleaning. Earlier on, kids used to go and play out in the sand, in the mud, in the dirt. It was fine because that actually helps you to build good bacteria. What happens now is we're living in an over sterilized world, and that is why our gut has got compromised.
Absolutely. Can we use pomegranate vinegar for the first recipe? Can you please? We will be posting recipes. Can we use pomegranate vinegar? I guess yeah.
I don't think so, because from what I know, I've used pomegranate molasses, which are a bit thicker. I don't know what pomegranate vinegar is, but sure, I mean, try it. I am not aware what pomegranate vinegar is.
How to deal with cravings? Self-control, I guess.
Fix your gut. Fix your gut.
Okay.
And you can deal with craving. There's no magic formula over there, but there's no magic formula to anything. But if you focus on healing your gut, 100% your cravings would go. As I was telling you before, like, you know, you said 80-20. Trust me, when your gut is healed, you could have a chocolate cake or whatever cake lying right in front of you. You will have no desire to eat it. And that magic only happens when your gut bacteria changes. And it takes time. I can tell you that.
I have experienced it, I think. I mean, I no longer really crave for all these foods. So I think definitely.
It's because you have a lot of good bacteria. And the good bacteria don't crave processed
foods. Perfect. Sattvic Movement recommends enema for enhanced immunity. Your views, please.
I'm not a fan of enema because it gets rid of your entire gut flora. So I'm not a fan.
Me too. I'm also not a fan of it. Perfect. Thyroid, just a question mark, Shreya. I think probably please ask Nidhi directly a specific question if you have. How good is whole wheat bread? Yeast is added to bread need, hence the question.
Not good. Not good at all.
It's not good.
It raises your glycemic index. So again, use it on and off when you want to. Otherwise, please make freshly made breads at home. Use sourdough breads. I'm not a huge fan of gluten-free breads because I don't know what is in there. But sourdough breads are fine. Otherwise, make your Indian breads.
All right. Treating low progesterone on spotting before periods.
Huge topic.
Okay, we will. That's a very specific topic.
Yeah, that is the whole. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have. I think we have a lot of questions. I would say. I mean, are you all okay to stay on for some more time, Nidhi? Because we have a lot of questions here.
Sure, another 15 minutes for sure.
All right, perfect. Treating low progesterone, large topic. Okay, how can we prepare for menopause?
How can we prepare for menopause? Again, I think you have to look at holistic health when it comes to menopause. Health is not just physical health. So mental health, emotional health, physical health, spiritual health. When you look at all these aspects, you'll be able to come to terms with, you know, perimenopause and menopausal health. According to me, it's everything combined. And when it comes to your physical health, I would say check into your gut health. So everything that I have mentioned today, all that plus more, where you will look after your emotional and mental and social and spiritual well-being, because that is the time your hormones and everything is at a very sensitive level. So you need to manage your health in a very holistic manner.
All right. I would like to know what if we eliminate dairy from our diet, what calcium-rich food we can incorporate?
Oh my God. So actually dairy leaches out the calcium from our body. It
Dairy
creates an acidic environment.
milk is not the source of calcium. It's a lie told to us. So please, please, please remember that. So sesame, and I think
Sesame seeds are very, very rich in calcium. Broccoli is rich in calcium.
yeah,
Certain lentils and beans are rich in calcium. All leafy greens are rich in calcium. So don't depend on milk, and your body is quite happy with all these other sources.
hmm, hmm. All right. How can we replace the traditional rotis in our
What you
daily
need
life?
to take, can I just interject? What you
Sure,
need
sure,
to
sure,
take
sure.
care of is your vitamin D level, because vitamin D is what enables the absorption of calcium. So if
Mhm.
your vitamin D is low, you won't be able to absorb the calcium. So that's where I would focus on. So exposing yourself to the sun, sure, it helps, it definitely helps, but sometimes it's not very practical. And that is why being on top of it, getting regular blood tests done, and maybe if it requires supplementation of some form of vitamin D, I would say go ahead with it, because vitamin D is a very, very critical vitamin. It's actually considered a hormone. So instead of worrying about your calcium, you're getting that enough. If you're having a balanced diet, don't worry about your calcium, but definitely worry about your vitamin D.
Yeah, otherwise you can please go and expose yourself anytime 2 hours before the sunset or 2 hours after the sunrise. If you're able to go out and have a good walk where you can feel the sun on your skin, that will be a great source of vitamin D. So if you are able to, if you have the time on hand, which ideally I think we should have now simply because we are very much working from home. So please do that if you can do that. That's the most natural thing that you can do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How can we replace traditional rotis in our daily lives? Shreya, I would recommend please visit my Insta profile. I keep posting no rotis, but alternate rotis. I keep posting. I have a
There
lot
is
of
so
recipes.
much. Who's asked this question?
Shreya Monga.
Shreya, there is so much variety
Yeah,
that you can just have different rotis every day of the month. There is so
absolutely.
much
We have a
variety.
lot of
In our
variety.
Indian kitchen, we are so blessed.
Yeah,
So between all the different flours and all the different millets, there is a lot of variety. There's, there are these no grain flours like
yeah,
buckwheat and chestnut flour. Plus, we have a variety of millets,
yeah. Bajra,
amaranth.
jowar.
I mean, there's no dearth at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any cure for severe constipation? Gut again. I think that's been answered.
Constipation
And
is something that I'm telling you, this is something you need to be on top of. If you are constipated, you need to work on it. And it's not something which is you cannot fix. You can definitely fix it, but you just need to focus in on it and do a lot of things which can help you. I can certainly help with that.
is it better to consume coconut sugar? Can you type the names of collagen, please?
Neocell collagen
Hmm.
and vital proteins,
Okay.
collagen peptides.
Any particular bone, mutton, chicken?
So traditionally bone broth was made with beef bones. Now, that's not something that most of us have. So when I make my bone broth, I make it with chicken bones, and I get the whole chicken carcass from, the whole skeleton from the organic store, and use that to make my bone broth. It's delicious. And you can use that bone broth to make whichever soup you're making, just use that as a broth. So if you're open to having, the broth of the chicken, then I would say bone broth it's a superfood. It keeps your immunity up. It keeps your gut health up. It's an awesome thing to include in your diet.
The ulcerative colitis curable through diet?
Absolutely. Ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, IBS, SIBO, IBD, all of them are gut-related diseases.
All right.
And you can definitely cure your gut. Your gut has gotten messed up over a period of time because of wrong diet and lifestyle choices. I can't say it's your fault. Sometimes the food industry does this to us. And we have become so used to convenience foods and fast foods and processed foods, but we have paid a price for it. But do we continue to live like that? No. We can stop and we can take our health in our own hands and we can reverse the problem. It is not something irreversible at all.
All right. Okay. Whole flaxseed to be roasted first and then grounded?
No, no,
It should be ground
not
as it
roasted.
is.
It gives a very it gives a very strange aroma. So just like that. And please buy organic, guys. As far as possible, buy organic flax seeds. In fact, as far as possible, buy organic seeds. And yeah, flax seeds you should not be roasting.
Perfect. I think, all right, we'll just take last two to three questions, yeah?
Okay.
Isn't broccoli man-made vegetable? Is it beneficial to eat 3 times a week? Is that true?
Broccoli man-made? No.
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 Yeah.
No. It's something which has got introduced into the Indian homes much later.
Mhm.
It's become popular now. It's not something which typically fits into the Indian diet, but it's a very, very beneficial and nutritious vegetable. So having it 2-3 times in a salad or in a soup, you can make a really nice soup with broccoli, or put it in your stir fries or your noodles or your rice or whatever else you're making. Yes, it's a great idea. But again, some people cannot tolerate cruciferous vegetables. Cruciferous vegetables are all these cabbage and broccoli and Brussels sprouts, etc. And because it makes them gassy. But the reason is, remember what I told you earlier, your body is not able to break it down. It's because you don't have enough capacity in your body to break it down. Otherwise, you shouldn't be having a problem with it. So I would say give it a break. If you're not tolerating broccoli well, give it a break, fix yourself, and then again try it. And if it again doesn't work for you, then maybe it's not meant for you. And that's fine. I mean, you don't have to have it.
All right. What about A2 milk in our diet?
Yeah, of course, A2 milk is very good. If you can get it, why not? I have actually really reduced my consumption of milk as such. But if you can get A2 milk, and that's really good.
What is the best time in the day to have vitamin D supplement?
Oh, actually, it doesn't matter. You can have it at any time. It depends. The vitamin D supplement that I'm having is about 50,000 international units. I have it once a month. Some people have it once a week. Some people have a small dose every day. So it really doesn't matter. You can have it in the morning, soon after your breakfast. Just fix a time that, so that you don't miss it. Fix a time. And I would say normally with supplements, if you kind of time it after your breakfast, it's a really good time to have whatever supplements you're having.
This is the last question. What is the right to eat meals? What time to start your day? When should be our last meal? I think.
Okay, so live with the circadian rhythm as far as possible. Have your last meal as close to sunset as possible. I know it may be impractical as a family to eat as early as 6:30, 7, but say by 7:38 should be your last meal. Your next meal in the morning should be at least give a gap, according to me. I know intermittent fasting is very popular. I'm a huge believer in fasting, because fasting is another way of giving your digestion a break and letting your gut lining soothe and relax and rejuvenate and repair and everything else. But I would say if you can't do a 16-hour break, which sometimes is too much, also for some women, it has a detrimental effect on the hormones. It doesn't suit everybody. So I would say 12 to 14-hour gap between your dinner and your breakfast is something which is very healthy. On an ongoing basis, you can practice that. But 12 hours minimum.
Last question somebody has requested: is fasting good for acid reflux?
Fasting is good for everything. 100%.
Perfect. All right, that brings us to an end of this wonderful session. I hope you all enjoyed. Like Nidhi said, please don't leave the group. I would recommend make the recipes which we are going to share. Have them. If you feel the difference, we would like to know. It is very important that we know that you're doing it and what is the impact it is having on your health and how is it helping you. Unless you do it, I mean, you have invested in this webinar and now it's time to take action. So please use this knowledge, put it to practical application, Let us know your experience. Only then you'll be able to spread the goodness furthermore to your friends and yeah. So
And
please,
your family. Yeah.
and your family. So please do try, and we will be sharing all the information. Just allow us some time. It's 7:30 now. If you don't get all the information today, for sure tomorrow you'll be getting all the information because it's already pretty late. So thank you so much once again for coming.
I guess you'll have to share your email so that we can send the document to you.
I have the emails with me.
Okay.
I'll send it
Okay.
to you so we can email it to them. All right.
All right.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, everyone, and have a lovely evening ahead.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.